the decline of the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. Is it significant that the World Bank is saying this, and is it significant that they're giving a date?
Well, I think that they're pulling the date out of a hat. I mean, there's no way to know. I know that the current system is unsustainable. And the longer the world tries to preserve the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency, the worse the global imbalances are going to become, the more inflation the world is going to suffer. So the sooner the world understands this and looks for an alternative, I think gold is the best alternative, then we can begin to tackle these problems. Of course, when that happens, America's ride on the global gravy train comes to an end, and we're going to have to get used to living within our means, which our means have been dramatically diminished over the years because of our industrial base basically having disintegrated due to high regulation, high taxes, cheap money, all the things that we've done to undermine our economy. But as far as I'm concerned, the sooner that happens, the better, because the longer it takes, the worse these imbalances grow, the fundamentally weaker our economy becomes, and the harder it's going to be to rebuild a viable economy. So the sooner the world wakes up, it's actually going to help America, even though we're going to have to experience a lot of short-term pain to get from where we are to where we need to go.
That's something I wanted to ask about, because the report says that the larger role for the renminbi would resolve China's heavy reliance on foreign currencies. Uh-oh. Is that the U.S. dollar? Does that mean the U.S. dollar is doomed? It's not going to have a customer for all of its treasuries anymore?
Well, China is not relying on the U.S. currency. They're stockpiling it. The U.S. currency relies on China to prop it up. I mean, people keep saying that China has an export economy. They don't. They have a production economy. The fact that they export their production is their loss. If they simply let the dollar fall and their own currency rise, they would still produce, except it would be the Chinese who would enjoy the products that are being produced instead of Americans, and the Chinese economy would be much stronger. And instead of investing all their savings in treasuries where they're basically squandering them, they can invest more productively in improving their own plant and equipment and their own efficiencies and have an even more vibrant economy than they have today.
In that scenario, though, is the U.S. kind of out of luck? Because the United States does rely on China to be the buyer of U.S. treasuries, of U.S. debt.
Well, our politicians are out of luck. I mean, the central planners, the welfare state advocates are out of luck. But I think ultimately, as I said earlier, the best thing that can happen to the U.S. economy is for the Chinese to cut us off. It's like we're drug addicts, and they're the enablers. They're supplying the drugs. Cut us off so that we can sober up. It's not going to be pleasant for a lot of people, but it's necessary. And the sooner we begin the process, the sooner we can begin building a real economy. And I don't like all this money going from China, the Chinese government, to the American government, because all that does is undermine our capitalist system. It grows the government at the expense of the private sector, and it fundamentally weakens our economy. Sure, we get a few more trinkets, we get to buy more products, but we're selling our souls to the devil.
Really quickly, I want to just touch back upon commodities, because there was something I wanted to ask you about that just really quickly. We've seen this rise in commodities. We also are seeing a rise in U.S. farmland, up 20% in the first quarter of this year. What's driving that? Is that having to do with commodities and speculation?
Well, no, I think it's good business. I mean, I think farmers are making more money despite the fact that it costs more to grow your crops. So you're getting more money for them. I think probably agricultural exports are going to increase, and so there's legitimate demand. I mean, this is not speculation. There might be some speculators who are specking on farmland, but from what I can tell, you can buy farmland, you can either farm it yourself or you can rent it out, but there's real income there. And I've said, if you're going to buy real estate in America, you better be able to farm it or mine it. But don't buy it if you're planning on building a house on it, because that'd be a complete waste of money.
That was his advice. You got it from Peter Schiff, president of Euro-Pacific Capital.
And upon checking out, the gal asked me what I was doing with so much food. And I said, there's an economic collapse coming to this country. Plan now. And she laughed. She actually thought that was funny. Here's the point. There are people out there that we can't help and don't want to help themselves. But as for the rest of us, buy storable food now. It remains cheap at this very moment in time, despite the meteoric rise in price of wheat. up 54% since June. Sugar's up 114%, and corn is up 79%, along with most other commodities, including silver. Buy food now for storage. This instant. Go tonight, tomorrow. Buy food in any amount you are able to buy it. Just as silver was cheap 1 year ago at $14.32 an ounce, food is cheap today compared to what it will cost 1 year hence, and perhaps much, much